welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. Today I have a homeschooling video for you. Today's video is going to be about our our thoughts and opinions and our little review on our book and a movie picks that I chose for our read out louds for the 2022-2023 homeschool year. So if you are new here, hello and welcome. My name is Sarah and I'm a homeschooling mom to two girls ages 10 and 14. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by once again. I do really appreciate you. So, book and a movie was something that I decided to do this school year to try and make our read out louds a little bit more fun. So all of the books I chose had movies that went with them. I do have two videos about our choices. The first video shows, I think, 14 books that I chose, but we ended up working our way through the books faster than I thought we would. So I have a second video updating that first video where I add, I think, 10 more books to our list. It's a good change, right? We added more books to our reading list, but I do want to mention there was a couple of books we didn't get through, and I will mention which ones we didn't get through at the end. And the first thing I wanted to mention as well, or the first thing, I already mentioned things. The next thing I wanted to mention was that we are currently still reading two of these books. The two that we're currently reading are Peter Pan and The Hobbit. So I can't really give a full review on either one of these, but I can tell you this. So far, we are all enjoying both of these books. So my girls are both enjoying both of these books. This one we're actually listening to on Audible, but The Hobbit I am reading out loud to them. So Peter Pan is actually a little different than what I was expecting. And The Hobbit is about what I expected, but I love it still. So we are enjoying these so far, but we're just not done with them. So I can't really give a full review on them. We're still working on them. Okay, so the first book that we read this school year, we started with Harriet the Spy. I thought my kids were going to absolutely love this story. I used to watch the movie when I was younger, and I used to love this movie. I hadn't seen it in a really long time, but it came up in conversation one day, and I was like, oh, I'm going to add that to our reading list. So I added Harriet the Spy to the reading list, and guess what? My kids did not like this book. They did not like the movie. They didn't like any of it. My kids said that they did not like the way that Harriet would behave. They said that they thought that she was kind of mean, and they did not like that about her. So my kids didn't enjoy this book. Me, personally, I thought it was fine, but my kids made really good points about the way that she behaved. So this was a no for them, but I'm really glad that we added this to the reading list. Now, the next thing we read was Ella Enchanted. So Ella Enchanted is about, at birth, Ella received a foolish fairy's gift, the gift of obedience. So Ella must obey any order that is given to her. And this story kind of goes into the complications with that. And my kids absolutely loved this story. They really enjoyed Ella Enchanted. We did watch the movie. They enjoyed the movie, but they said if they had to pick one, they would pick the book. They did say that they liked that you got more of a backstory on the characters when you read the book, which is pretty common, when you're comparing a book to a movie. So that's why they really enjoyed it. And they did actually say that Ella Enchanted was their favorite book and a movie pick for this entire school year. So this was a huge win. They loved the story. And they did really like the movie, but if they had to choose, they said the book. Okay, so the next thing we read was Robin Hood. Again, a very well-known story. I mean, Robin Hood's very common, he robs from the rich, gives to the needy, Robin Hood. I thought my kids would absolutely love this story, and they absolutely did not. They found this story kind of boring. Now, this could be one of two things. My kids just really did not like the story, or because I did choose to put this one on Audible, they did not like the Audible version of the story. So when I tried to talk to my kids to kind of figure out if that was the case, they said, nah, I think it just was the story in general. So there's that. But they did, so obviously they chose movie when it came to this one. They really did enjoy the Disney's Fox cartoon of Robin Hood. It is a really great movie. I mean, I could already hear the intro music to that Disney movie. So this was not a win book-wise, but it was a win movie-wise for my kids. Now, the next book we read was Bridge to Terabithia. My kids really enjoyed this book. This one has some sadness to it, so keep that in mind. But this is basically about how I think he was in 5th grade. Yeah, so this fifth grade boy that becomes friends with the new girl, and they kind of use their imagination to create this land, and they're like really, really great friends. And then like some struggles and problems and stuff come up. So my kids really, really enjoyed this. They said that if they had to absolutely choose between the book and the movie, they would choose the movie, but they said that they really loved the book. So this was a really hard one for them to choose whether it was the book or the movie, but they said that they would both go with movie, even though they thought the book was fantastic. So the next one we read was The Hunchback of Notre Dame, or Notre Dame, Notre Dame, however you say it. We read this one. Again, my kids weren't a huge fan. The biggest issue my kids had with this book is they did not like how young Esmeralda was portrayed in the actual book. It kind of made the book darker to them. I guess you can say. So when I asked them what they preferred, book or movie, they said the movie. And they watched the Disney's version of The Hunchback. They liked that Esmeralda in the movie was portrayed to be more as like a woman opposed to a younger girl. So they didn't care for this story, but they did really like the movie. Now, the next one is The Tale of Despero. Both of my kids absolutely loved this book. They really enjoyed this one. They really enjoyed the movie. And when it came to choosing between the book and the movie, they said they chose the book. Now, this book was about a mouse who a mouse in love with music. I think he falls in love with a princess, and just a story of this mouse, basically. So, again, my kids really, really enjoyed this one. My daughter did say that this is something she'd definitely read again. And they enjoyed both the book and the movie, but if they had to absolutely choose, they would go with the book. Okay, so the next one that we read was Tuck Everlasting. Now with this book, it says, doomed to or blessed with eternal life after drinking from a magic spring, the Tuck family wanders about trying to live as comfortably as they can without being noticed. When 10-year-old Winnie Foster stumbles on the secrets of the Tucks and their home, it creates a problem. So my kids really enjoyed this book, but they said that they actually preferred the movie. And they preferred the movie because Winnie in the book is portrayed as a 10-year-old child, to where Winnie in the book is portrayed as a young child, a 10-year-old, to where in the movie she's a little older. And they like that they added Winnie as like a teen opposed to like a small child. They just felt that the story was a little bit better with her being older. So they did prefer the movie, but they still really enjoyed this book even with that. So this next book, Because of Winn-Dixie, my kids both really, really enjoyed. I enjoyed the story as well. They did both say that this was definitely a read again as well. And this book is basically about this little girl who lives with her dad. I believe he's a preacher. And one day when she's at the grocery store, she finds this dog, and it's kind of like their little experiences together and her meeting people throughout this, new area that she lives in. So this was a really, really good book. And my kids did say, let me see, I have notes right here to make sure I'm giving you the right info according to my children. This one they said was really hard to choose from when it came to the book and the movie because they really liked both of them. They did both say that they would overall choose the book, but this was another one that was challenging because they really enjoyed both. So again, really great story, a great read, really. Now the next one we read was Old Yeller. Now this book, I'm pretty sure everybody pretty much knows about the story of Old Yeller, about this boy who gets this dog and, the sadness at the end. So this book, my kids actually said they really enjoyed. They said it was a little harsh. They weren't expecting that, but they really enjoyed it. And we did watch the movie, the older movie, and they said that this was another one that they had a hard time choosing between the book and the movie because they liked them both. But they did say that they ended up liking the book a little bit more, but that has nothing to do with the movie itself. They just said that, the book they found just slightly better than the movie, but they enjoyed both of them a lot. Now, the next one is The Witches. So with this book, my oldest daughter is a huge fan of Roald Dahl. It happens to be one of her favorite authors. And so The Witches was something on our list because my youngest daughter had never read it. And they both really, really enjoyed the book. And when I asked them, because The Witches is basically about, this little boy who lives with his grandmother, and they come across like these witches that they have to try and like stop, basically. And this boy goes through, a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of obstacles and things like that. So it's a really fun book. And I was super surprised when my kids said that they preferred the movie. This one was hard for me. I love the movie The Witches with, what's her name? Oh God, Angelica Houston. So the older one, not the newer one with Anne Hathaway. We didn't watch that one. We watched the older one from, I believe, the 90s with Angelica Houston. And I just absolutely love that one. I was just super surprised that my kids chose the movie over the book. But when I asked them why, they said that they preferred the ending in the movie than they did the book. So there's that. Okay, so the next book we read was The Indian in the Cupboard. My kids thought this book was just okay. They said that it was fine. They didn't necessarily dislike it, but they didn't necessarily love it. So they said that this one was just okay. They did say that they preferred the book to the movie, though. They said the book was better. And this book is just about a little boy that's gifted this magic cabinet, and he puts a toy in it, and it comes to life. So it's all like that. And again, my kids just thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. Like it, again, I didn't dislike it, didn't exactly love it. It was just a good read. The next book was The Incredible Journey. I thought that we were going to absolutely love this book because we love Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey movie. We did not like this. I didn't like it. My kids didn't like it. It just was not a book for us. There was too many things that was different from the beloved movie, and we actually thought the changes that the movie made were much better than what the book originally had. So this one was just not a win for us. If you're not familiar with The Incredible Journey, it's about these three animals that get lost in the wilderness and have to basically find their way home. If you're not familiar with the book, I'm pretty sure you'd be familiar with Homeward Bound, the movie. But this was just not, this was not, this was not working for us. We did not care for it. Now, the next book was A Christmas Carol. We read this pretty much almost every year around Christmas time. We love this story, so that just tells you how we feel about the book. This is This is the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. I'm pretty sure this is a very common story, so a lot of people are familiar with this. We do watch the animated, like, Jim Carrey version of A Christmas Carol every year to go along with this book. Why am I struggling all of a sudden? But this one, again, we love this story. I can't really say anything bad about it. We love the movie. So, I mean, this was just overall a win. But this is something that we read almost every year. So, there's that. Now, the next one was The Iron Giant. Now, I remember watching The Iron Giant before the cartoon and liking it. Reading the book, it was so different. The Iron Giant is about this little boy named Hogarth that finds this, big metal giant. And then, everything that happens after that, these mysteries and things. So with this book, I was actually really surprised at how different it was. I mean, it was different. My kids preferred, Lydia says that she preferred the book. Bella says that she preferred the movie. So they kind of had a difference of opinion on this one. Me, I preferred the movie, but I think that was more of like a sweet memory why I enjoyed the movie more opposed to me not caring for the book. I thought the book was fine. It was just so different. Like, it was almost not even comparable. The ending of this book was really different. So the storyline was really different between the book and the movie on this one. Now, the next thing that we read was The Great Gilly Hopkins. My kids absolutely love this book. Do keep in mind with this one, it is about a little girl that's in foster care. And it is a very sweet story, but it's, it's complicated. It's a complicated story. It's about an 11-year-old girl named Gilly, and she is just famous for being very brash, brilliant, and completely unmanageable. And it's basically about her finding herself at the same time. So this one, I really wasn't going into this book with any expectations, but I did really enjoy it. There are a few harsh moments in it, I will say that, but not in a way to where I felt like I couldn't read it to my children, but it was more in a way that it brought up things that we can talk about and discuss that my children weren't familiar with. So I really did enjoy the story. My kids really enjoyed the story. And when it came to choosing between the book and the movie, my kids said that this one was really hard because they enjoyed both. They really enjoyed the actual people that they chose in the movie to play the characters. So they said that if they had to choose, they would go with book, but they said that this one was like so hard to choose between the book and the movie because they really enjoyed the actors and actresses that portrayed the characters from the book. So there's that one. Now this next one is Heidi. This one I thought was going to be a huge win. I thought my kids were going to love it. And again, I was wrong. My kids did not like this story. I think the story of Heidi is sweet and I like it. My kids know. So Heidi thrives in the open air and sunshine of the Swiss Alps where she lives with her grandfather. But when it is decided she needs a better education than what she is getting running around with goats, she is whisked away to be a companion to a wheelchair-bound Clara in the city. So this is the story of a little girl that was living with her grandfather. Like I was saying, she gets taken away to go be a companion in the city. And my kids did not like this. They were like, no, can we stop reading it? I don't want to finish it. I did make them finish it. But when I asked them to point out something good about this book, they answered there was goats in it. So the only thing my kids liked about Heidi was that there was goats in it. I thought it was a good story. When it came to the movie, again, my kids didn't even care for that. So, and we did watch what's her name? She had curls. The Shirley Temple Heidi. And I thought my kids would even enjoy that. And they were like, So I kind of was like almost... I was almost like irritated because I was like, I thought it was good. Just a difference of opinion though. But yeah, my kids didn't like this one. Okay, the next one we read, The One and Only Ivan. Both of my kids said that this was definitely a read again. I thought that this story was a really good story. Very sad, I thought. Like when you really think about it, it was sad. But it was a really, really good story, cute movie. Both of my kids liked this, but they said that they would choose book over movie any day of the week. They really enjoyed this story. Again, they said it was a read again. And this is basically about Ivan, who is an easygoing gorilla living in a shopping mall. And he has grown accustomed to the humans watching him through the glass. He rarely misses life in the jungle. In fact, he hardly ever thinks about it at all. Instead, Ivan thinks about TV shows he's seen, his friends Stella and Bob, and painting. Then he meets Ruby, a baby elephant taken from her family, and she makes Ivan see their home and his own art through new eyes. Again, very good story. My kids 100% loved the book. Definitely a read again, they said. Now, this next one, Freaky Friday. Now, when it came to Freaky Friday, my kids liked the story. They thought it was funny. But they said that their one thing that they didn't care about for the book compared to the movie is how one-sided the book is. Like, you're only getting the perspective of the daughter when you read Freaky Friday, where the movie you kind of get both. So, this one, they said they still kind of preferred the book still just because there was, differences and stuff. But for me, when I was reading this book, it actually kind of shocked me at some of the derogatory terms that they used in this book. Now, don't get me wrong. I read a lot of history. History is my thing. So it's not like I haven't read these terms or, heard these things before, even in a real life situation. But I was actually surprised to hear some of the language that was used in this book. I was not expecting it at all. And it kind of shocked me. So if that's something that you're not wanting your kids to hear, I wouldn't recommend reading this book. But I was just shocked more along the lines of some of what they said in this book because I wasn't expecting it in this kind of story. Like, this was supposed to be like a fun, lighthearted read. So, again, they liked the story, but they thought that some of the characters in here were pretty rude, and they didn't like that about the story. But overall, they thought it was still like a funny, silly story when it came to, you know, the switching between the mom and her daughter. So, I'm pretty sure they are familiar with Freaky Friday, how, you know, the mom is in the daughter's body and the daughter's in the mom's body, and they have to live a day being each other. But yeah, again, it kind of shocked me. And again, I'm not sensitive to those things necessarily because I read a lot of historical books, but, or a lot of like history books, but I was just shocked because I wasn't expecting it in this style of book. Like, I thought this was supposed to be more like wholesome and like silly and funny and family friendly, and some of the terms in here just were not. So there's that. Okay, the next one we read was Holes. This one, we absolutely loved it. We really enjoyed this book. We really enjoyed the movie. My kids did say they loved both of them, both the book and the movie. They would choose the book if they had to choose between the book and the movie, but they absolutely loved both of them. I really like this story. This is about a boy named Stanley which he believes he's under a curse that began with his no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather and has since followed generations of his family. Now Stanley has been unjustly sent to a boys' detention center, Camp Green Lake, where the boys build character by spending all day, every day, digging holes exactly 5 feet wide and 5 feet deep. So this one, again, obviously there's like some like slight bad behavior and things like that. But I was expecting that in this book because from reading the back of the book and what I kind of knew of the story. So it didn't really shock me, but it wasn't necessarily really awful. It was a really, really good read. I'm really glad that we read this book. It was super fun. My daughter loved it because it did mention some reptiles in here. It was just really, really fun. Okay, the next one is The Call of the Wild. Again, I thought my kids would enjoy this one, and I was wrong once again. They did not enjoy this, not one bit. They did not enjoy any part of this book. My daughter said that it was a little bit hard to follow, my younger daughter. She said that although she understood what was going on, at the same time, it took her a minute to understand what was going on. So I think that's why she didn't really like this one. And she just wasn't a fan of the storyline. So now my oldest daughter, she said she didn't like it either. She understood what was going on, but she didn't like what was going on is what she said. So this just was not a win. I thought it was a fine story. I thought it was good, you know, but they didn't care for it. And they really didn't even care for the movie. They just didn't like the story in general. So this was a no for them. And then the last thing that we are reading, we just wrapped up, well, the last thing that we read completely that I could actually review is Pollyanna. This one actually surprised me. I thought that this was a really great book. This book was about poor Pollyanna, penniless and orphaned. She doesn't seem to have much to be happy about. And when she moves in with her harsh Aunt Polly, things start to look even worse. So we all liked it. I was actually surprised. After my kids didn't like Heidi, I was like, oh great, they're not going to like this book. But they actually really, really enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me slightly of like Anne of Green Gables. And I love Anne of Green Gables, and so do my girls. So I think that that's why we kind of connected with this story. It kind of reminded us of that. And we enjoyed the movie. So, you know, we watched an older version of the movie. I don't know if they have a newer one, do they? But I don't know. We watched an older version of the movie. My kids definitely picked the book over the movie. I did as well. And we just really, really enjoyed it. Now, for the books that we didn't make it through, there was a few of them. So the books that we didn't get to, I'll put pictures. We did not get to Madame Doubtfire. It's supposed to be like Mrs. Doubtfire, the movie. We didn't make it to this one. I don't know if I'm going to put it on our reading list for next year or not. I haven't decided with these books or not. But Madame Doubtfire, we did not make it to. The Never-Ending Story, I really wanted to read this one. We did not make it to the Never-Ending Story either, so that was a bummer. And we didn't get to start the Narnia books. I think I had showed like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I wanted to read that to my kids, but I was trying to save it towards the end of the year because it is a series, and I didn't want to get stuck in the series so early on. but by me doing that, we just didn't have time. And now that we're reading The Hobbit, my kids really want to go into the Lord of the Rings series after. So I don't think we're going to make it to Narnia at all, even over the summer. So yeah, pretty bummed about those. But we did go through a lot of books this year. And again, this isn't even everything that we read. This is just the book and a movie picks. So if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. I would love to hear if you disagree with us on any of these books, and why. I love to hear your guys' opinions as well and your thoughts on these. And I'd love to hear about your thoughts on these books as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a great day. Bye.